Will the next Transformers movie be a love letter to old-school fans of our favorite robots in disguise? The now decade-old series has been a heavy hitter for Paramount Pictures, grossing billions of dollars at the worldwide box office. But the bots are starting to show a little bit of rust, as their most recent outing, last week's Transformers: The Last Knight, didn't live up to expectations, both from fans or in the box office. Nonetheless, the franchise is still barreling along, full speed ahead, with the next movie set to start shooting in less than 2 months. But as opposed to another sequel, this one will be a prequel that takes us back to the 80s and focuses on the character of Bumblebee, specifically what he was doing between fighting Nazis in World War II, because yes, that is something we find out happens in The Last Knight, and hooking back up with Optimus and the rest of his Cybertron homies in the first Transformers movie. The Bumblebee movie was in pre-production well before The Last Knight was released, and even then it seemed to be running on a very different engine than the 5 Transformers films that came before it. The filmmakers have been hinting for some time that the 80s setting would allow them to return to some of their beloved boxier designs of the Generation 1 series. In fact, in a recent interview with comicbook.com, producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura spoke about how excited he was to bring the Transformers back to their roots. "You know, I am looking forward to reliving the 80s Transformers and what those kind of cars can look like. I think that's really fun." And now it seems like the differences may run deeper than just a classic custom paint job. In an interview with Collider, Bonaventura said the film would go back to 1985 and go back to the Transformers G1, leaving lots of fans wondering if we'll see some of the series' old favorites finally making it to the big screen. Could Transformers like Soundwave, who turned into a boombox, make cameos? Now, the character may have been a little too goofy for Bay's vision, but could seem right at home in the Bumblebee movie. Same goes for other ridiculous but beloved bots like Astrotrain, Wheelie, Computron, and Nightbeat, the Transformer who was also a private detective. Now, this will also be the first Transformers flick not helmed by Michael Bay, and Paramount's pick for director is pretty interesting. Instead of going with a Bay copycat like they did for the last 2 Bay-produced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, they hired Travis Knight. Now, Knight has been an animator for over a decade now, working on modern stop-motion classics like Coraline and Paranorman, and making his directorial debut last year with Kubo and the Two Strings, which was amazing. Needless to say, all of those movies have a slower, less frenetic aesthetic than anything Bay has ever directed, which is saying something. Producers have been claiming for a while now that they wanted the Bumblebee movie to be a little more kid-friendly, even saying they hope to achieve a bit of an Iron Giant vibe, focusing more on the relationship between one bot and one human. And now with Knight coming on board, it seems like they're actually committed to achieving that. Not to say the director won't have to ramp up the action a little bit to fall slightly more in line with the Bay established style, but it still feels like this is going to be its own thing, more dedicated to the Transformers of the 80s than the ones that we've been seeing in theaters for the last 10 years. And we're betting that may become even more the case after the relative disappointment of The Last Knight. The action-packed bombast of Bay's films has gotten a little tiresome, and with kids who grew up watching Generation 1 Transformers now having kids of their own, a return to the series' goofier, cartoonier 80s heyday may be the perfect choice to bring audiences back in, something that would appeal to kids and their nostalgia-hungry parents. Let's just hope they get some Stan Bush back on that soundtrack, cause "You've Got the Touch" is a timeless classic. But what do you guys think? Will we see more of an 80s influence in the Bumblebee movie? And what other 80s cartoons would you like to see get a faithful big screen adaptation? Let's discuss. And have you seen our live weekly show, Mothership? We team up with Geek and Sundry to bring you epic challenges, dig up the most WTF moments on the internet, give away prizes, and a whole lot more. If you miss out, you can always catch up on demand over at projectalpha.com. Be sure to use the promo code SHIPMATES to get 60 free days.